Hey, what's up everyone and welcome to Daily Code Buffer. In this video, we are going to understand and learn completely about Kafka. We are going to understand what is Kafka, why we need to use Kafka, what is the architecture of Kafka, and how to use Kafka in your application. So we are going to see each and everything about it. We are going to install the Kafka application as well, and we are going to build on top of that. So without any further ado, let's get started. So firstly, we need to understand what is Kafka. So first let's understand what is Kafka here. So Kafka is an Apache Kafka and it's an open source system. Kafka is a communication system between a sender and the receiver. So if we want to send any data, then at that time we can use Kafka system. So suppose consider we have one sender and we have one receiver. Now to send the data between sender and receiver, we can use Apache Kafka. Okay, this is going to be your Apache Kafka. It can be installed anywhere. Okay, so just consider that you have Kafka installed and you have one sender application and when you have receiver application. So what and how it works is it works on the publishing and subscribing model. So whatever we want to send the data, we need to publish the data. So sender will publish the data to the Kafka and receiver will subscribe to Kafka. Okay, so sender is going to send the data to the Kafka and receiver is going to listen to that Kafka. Okay, whatever there is new data, just send me on. So receiver will be receiving those data based on that subscription model. And you might have guessed it right as well. What if about multiple receivers? Yes, we can be having the multiple receivers as well. So there is one receiver which is subscribed to Kafka topic. There can be multiple receiver 2, receiver 3, receiver 4 and receiver 5. So all this thing can subscribe to Kafka. So this way Kafka will send the messages to the different receivers, whatever has been sent by the sender. So this is a simple model how Kafka works. We are going to deep dive into each and everything in detail. So this was the basic. Now when to use Kafka, like what is the actual advantage of using Kafka and in which type of application you can use Kafka. So let's understand this with one example. Suppose consider you have a cab booking application. Okay, in cab booking application, what you will do is you will be a user and you want to book a cab. Okay, you will book a cab and at the same time once you try to book a cab, that request will go to the server and based on your location and based on the cab's location, one driver will be assigned to it, right? One cab will be assigned. So suppose driver is assigned. We are just taking a simple example here. Okay, here you can see that driver is assigned. Now once the driver is assigned, you will get a notification that okay, driver is assigned and you will get a cab or driver will come to pick you in 5 minutes or 10 minutes, whatever the ETA is. Okay, now what you can also do is in most of the booking application you would be saying this, that you will be getting a constant update about the location of the driver. Okay, so you'll be constantly getting the location update of the driver. Now what and how the location update of the driver will get to the user. Now what will be happening is when the driver gets a notification and driver starts the ride to pick the user, what's going to happen is, or what is happening is, at every particular time interval, suppose consider that's a 1 second. Okay, so every 1 second what is happening is every 1 second there is an update of the location. Okay, one update is happening at every second. So okay, at the time you can see the driver is going towards the user and at every second that update is happening. Now what is happening is that update is going to a database. Okay, consider that is going to a database. Okay, and database is storing all the details about the current location of the driver, where it is going, and user is getting that information from user for every time interval. Okay, it is picking the data from the database. Okay, that's the general model that we can think of. But consider this is one of the ride. There might be hundreds and thousands of ride booked, and for every user, for every driver, if we are doing the same operation again and again into DB, at every time interval or every second we are updating the database and user is picking those from the database, it's not gonna work. It's not gonna scale very good because DB does not allow you to do those kind of operations. We cannot have humongous operations on database. So for that, what we can have is we can have one intermediate application which can allow us to do each and everything. Okay, so instead of this DB, what I can do is, rather than this, I can have a messaging system. Okay, so here the messaging system that we are using is Apache Kafka. Okay, So now what it is going to happen is Apache Kafka is a publisher and subscriber model, right? It works on the publishing the messages and subscribing those messages. Now what driver will do is, from the driver's application, at the time of driver going towards the user, at every interval, okay, the moment driver is going to the user, all the data is getting stored to one of the topics here in one of the instances of the Kafka. Okay, suppose consider there is one topic. We will get to know what is topic and everything, but consider in one of the sections data is getting stored here. So data is getting stored in one of the topics and it's publishing the data. At every interval it is publishing the data. So that means we are not touching DB as of now. So we are having very high throughput because for every second we need to store the data. So driver is coming on, it's storing the data in Apache Kafka and it's publishing the messages. Now at the same time, user also wants to know where my driver is, when it's going to pick me up and what is the ETA. So what user's application will do is, user's application will subscribe to Apache Kafka. It will subscribe and it will subscribe to this particular topic itself. Okay, and what it will get to know is whatever the message is, whatever the updated location has been set by the driver to Apache Kafka, those will be listened by the user's application and user will get the updated driver location. Okay, and for the same thing, hundreds and thousands of users and drivers are connected, and because of that our Apache Kafka is able to manage all that high throughput because our Apache Kafka is a distributed system. Okay, it will be not centralized data, it will be distributed along the different servers, different replicas and different clusters. So whatever the number of load we have, Apache Kafka will be able to handle that load and it will be able to serve the traffic very easily. So here you can see that this is one of the application where you can leverage Kafka. The another application would be your food delivery apps, your flight trackers and so on. Okay, if there is any data streaming happening for your data science pipeline or your data pipeline, there are many applications where we can use Apache Kafka. If you see currently in all the organizations, in one of the other ways Apache Kafka has been used. Be it e-commerce application, be it travel application, maybe life insurance, banking, wherever you go, Apache Kafka has been used. Okay, so this is a general idea about where the Apache Kafka can be used and what is the purpose of using Apache Kafka. And we also saw that what is Apache Kafka. Let's understand about its architecture as well, and then we'll move ahead towards how to install and how to build the application on top of that. But before we see about what is the architecture, let's understand the advantages as well. So let's understand why we should use Kafka. In the previous example, we saw that we were able to handle hundreds and thousands of users and drivers, right? So that means the first advantage we can see is high throughput, which means that it is able to handle lots of transactions, lots of operations. So it's able to handle hundreds and millions of transactions distributed across its cluster. So it might be having multiple clusters. All those multiple clusters can be divided into different topics and whatnot. So all the things can be handled because it's completely distributed and we do not have to worry about storing all those data centrally. So because of that, it's very high throughput, and because of those needs we can use this Apache Kafka. Next is fault tolerance. Why it is fault tolerance? Because it is going to handle our replicas as well. Okay, so as it is having different clusters across distributed systems, it will also handle the different replicas as well. So how it will work is there will be different replicas and one of the clusters would be its leader and the rest would be its follower. So all the data would be managed by the leader, and if anything goes wrong with the leader, then any other of the followers will become the leader and it will serve the traffic and serve the data. So this way there will be multiple replicas and all those replicas will serve the traffic once they are leader, and accordingly it will manage all the fault tolerance for us. So we do not have to worry about losing our records. And it is also scalable application. You can see that using those high throughput, using distributed system, creating multiple clusters and having lots of replicas, the system is highly scalable. Suppose there is millions of records already getting processed, and suppose in our e-commerce application, taking the example of e-commerce application, we have a sale coming up, right? So for that sale, if we need extra clusters available, extra resources and servers available, then Kafka will scale up all those things according to our need. So we do not have to worry about how the scaling will happen, how it will be able to handle all those records and anything. It has the cluster defined. If any new servers are required, we'll create the servers and it will be assigned to a cluster and it will handle each and everything according to the different replicas. If we take the example of a travel booking application, if it's an vacation season going on, then to handle the large number of fleets, it can add the different servers and the entire cluster will be handled accordingly. So it's highly scalable as well, and because of that we should use Apache Kafka in our tech stack. So there are a lot of advantages of using Apache Kafka in our applications. With this we got to know that as well. So we understood what is Apache Kafka, why we should use it, and what are the applications of the Apache Kafka. Let's understand about its architecture as well. Now, as we saw earlier as well, Apache Kafka we will use when we have our sender applications and receiver applications, and in between we'll be having our Apache Kafka. But what is consistent in Apache Kafka, that we'll see. So the first thing would be that we will be having a sender and we will be having the receiver, right? Now, as the architecture suggests, Apache Kafka consists of two components. One is the Kafka cluster itself and one is the zookeeper. So the one layer would be, let me just first draw it down, zookeeper, and the next one would be Kafka cluster. Okay, and both these things, zookeeper and Kafka cluster, are part of our Kafka ecosystem. Okay, so our ecosystem consists of two things, that is zookeeper and cluster. Cluster is your Kafka cluster. But what is zookeeper? From the zookeeper itself, let's consider that example that if you're going to a zoo, right, there are a lot of animals available, and to manage those animals there is a zookeeper which will manage all the different animals. It will keep track of where the animals are, what is the food life cycle for those animals, when they will get the food, when those will get rest, and all the details about that will be handled by that zookeeper. Here also is the same thing. For our Apache Kafka cluster, zookeeper will take care of those things. Zookeeper will take care of like how many clusters are available, how many senders are there, how many receivers are there, how many replicas are there. All those things can be handled by our zookeeper. So entire Kafka cluster will be managed by our zookeeper. So Kafka's job is just to get the data, send the data, and whatever it is. But the metadata around it, like how many senders are there, how many receivers are there, and their complete logic about replicas and everything, those is exported to zookeeper. So zookeeper will be handling all those things for us. Okay, so these are the two components in our architecture. So sender will be sending data, receiver will be receiving the data, and this is our entire ecosystem. Now within our Apache Kafka cluster, we'll be having different brokers. So suppose we have one broker 1, we have a broker 2. Okay, let me just write it down. Broker 1, broker 2. Okay, there will be multiple brokers available. So within a cluster there will be different brokers, and within the brokers there will be different topics, topic 1, topic 2, and so on. Okay, and all your data will be stored within the topics always. So for each and everything you will be creating the topics, and data will be stored within those topic itself. So in the previous example we saw about cab booking application. In the cab booking application we store the data in one of the topics. So suppose you created one topic, that is the updated location. So that is a topic which sender will send the data to that topic, and receiver will also listen to that topic to fetch the latest data. Okay, so that's the part of the topic. Now within that topic itself there will be multiple partitions. Okay, like from which partitions we need to get the data. So there will be partitions available. Okay, partition P1, P2, and the data will be stored in those particular partitions as well. Okay, now within those topics as well we will be having the offsets as well. So what offset will do is, like suppose, let me just create here. So this is your arrays. Okay, how you store the data in arrays, like these are the indexes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, basically you store the data here, then here, then here, and so on. And once you read the data will be fetched from here, then from here, and then from here. This way the data will be fetched. So this is nothing but your offsets within the topic and partitions. So the sender has sent the data, and suppose it has sent 5 data. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the data has been placed here. So now when the receiver is starting receiving the data, it will receive the data from where? There are some options as well. Do receiver fetch data from the starting offsets, from the earlier offset? That means from the start of the topic itself, or I should receive the data from now on. I don't want the previous data, I want the fresh data only. So these are the options that a receiver can receive the data accordingly based on the offsets defined. Okay, So here you can see that what we learned about the sender, we learned about the receivers, about the zookeeper, about the Kafka topics, about the clusters, sorry. Within those clusters we have brokers, within the brokers we have topics, and within the topics we have partitions, and there is an offset concept as well, like from what offsets receiver can receive the data. So this is all about the architecture of Kafka and how internally it will work. Now, as we saw that we have two components within our Kafka ecosystem, that is our Kafka cluster and Zookeeper. When we install Kafka in our system, we have to run those two components. Okay, so we will see that as well, like how we can run those two components. So now enough being about the theory part, let's go ahead and see how we can install Kafka, from where we can install, and what are the different commands, how to create topics and all those things. Okay, and then we'll create the application as well. So let's directly jump into it. So now to install Apache Kafka, what we'll do is we'll go to our browser and we'll search for Kafka install. Okay, and here you can see that there is a documentation available, that is the Apache Kafka quick start. Okay, so we'll go here. Okay, this is your Apache Kafka website. If you go here within getting started, you can go to quick start and you will get all the details. You can also go here to download Kafka and download your Kafka. Okay, so let's go to getting started and quick start. So here you can see that you are getting all the steps how you can install Kafka and each and everything. So here you can see that there is a download button available. So here we will download our Apache Kafka. So let's go here and we will download the latest version available. So here you can see that the download is getting started and now download is completed. So we'll go to this directory. So you can see that it is downloaded in our downloads directory. So now what we will do is we will go to this section and we will start working on it. So first step, it is asking to unzip it, right? So we'll just copy this command and we'll go to terminal. And what we'll do is we'll go to downloads directory. Okay, and here we have that tar file downloaded here. So we will just paste this command, that is tar-xzf Kafka, and it will unzip. So here you can see that the unzip is done. So if you go to cd Kafka, this is the folder. Okay, now you can see that the next command was the same thing. Now here you can see that these are the requirements, that you need to install Java 8 Plus, and we have already installed Java 8 Plus, so we can get started. Now here you can see that there is an option to Kafka with Zookeeper. So you can see the first command is to start the Zookeeper and the next command is to start the Kafka. Okay, so if I show you one thing here, that if we go to this directory, okay, let me just do this. Okay, now within bin, okay, all your sh files are there. So if you're working with Mac or Linux, then this is where you will be directly running your sh files. But if you're working with Windows, then you need to go within Windows directory, and then from here you need to run the bat files, because Windows will work with the bat files and your Linux and Unix will work with the sh files. Okay, so if I'm directly using this any sh files, and similarly those files will be available in Windows as well if you are working with Windows. Suppose I am working with Kafka server start, then similar Kafka server start will be available in Windows folder as well. Okay, so you can install accordingly. So now let's run this command. So what is the first command to start our Zookeeper? So we'll just copy this command and we'll go to terminal and we will run this command. So here what is happening is, within the bin directory there is a Zookeeper server start command available. Okay, and after that we need to give the configurations for the Zookeeper as well. So the configurations are available from config directory. So we are taking from config/Zookeeper properties. That's it. So based on this Zookeeper properties, it will start our Zookeeper server. Okay, so we'll just run the command and we will wait for Zookeeper to start. Okay, so now you can see that Zookeeper is started. You can see Zookeeper started. So now we will open a new terminal tab. We will go to downloads directory and we'll go to Kafka directory, and now we need to start our Apache Kafka. So we will go again to browser, and this is the below command to start Apache Kafka broker. Okay, so we will run this command, copy this and paste it here. Now this command says bin/Kafka server start, and properties you should use is config/server.properties. Simple. Okay, so now with this, if I hit enter, you can see that my Apache Kafka is also started. You can see that it is started, and somewhere it would be written that it started on port 9092. Yeah, you can see that it started on port 9092. So your Apache Kafka is working on port 9092. So your Zookeeper is started and your Apache Kafka is started. Now we need to understand how to create topics and how to create the different messages to those topics. Okay, so let me just open a new terminal and we'll go here. Okay, so now here you can see that in step 3 there is an option to create a topic to store your events. Okay, so for each and everything, for each and every data to be stored, you need to create a topic. Okay, and here is the command. So you can see that the command to create a topic is you need to go to Kafka topics file from bin directory, and -- create is to create a topic, and -- topic is what we need to create. So I need to create, but what? I need to create a topic. Then you need to give the topic name. Okay, this is a topic name. And where you want to create a topic, like what is the Kafka server. So Kafka server is our 9092 localhost, right? That's what we saw here, right? 9092 localhost. So within Bootstrap server we need to give that localhost 9092. Okay, so this is how you will be able to create the topic. So what we'll do is we'll just copy this command. Okay, and we'll go to terminal, and what we'll do is we'll go to cd downloads and Kafka. Okay, and here we will run the command that go to bin/Kafka topics, then -- create to create -- topic. For topic means create topic. What is the name of the topic? Quick start events. Where? In Bootstrap server localhost 9092. And if we hit enter, you can see that created topic quick start events. Okay, so topic is created. And if we go here, okay, and here you can see that within partition quick start events 0 is created, and there are no brokers within broker 0. Okay, sorry. So you can see that our topic is created. Now how to see those topics? Okay, that also command is available. See, so here you can see that the command is available for describing the topics. Okay, so what you need to do, you need to go to bin Kafka topics, same way you went here for creating the topic. Okay, then you need to describe rather than create. Now you need to describe. What you need to describe? You need to describe topic. And what is the name of the topic? Quick start events. Where it was? In Bootstrap server localhost 9092. Okay, so I'll just run this command and it will give me the topic information. So here you can see that we have the information that this is the topic name, that is quick start events. What is the topic ID? What is the partition count? How many partitions are there? How many replicas are there? And what is the configuration? Okay, who is the leader and everything. So all the information we can get for a particular topic with this particular command. Cool, right? So now we know how to start our Zookeeper, start our Kafka, create a topic and describe that topic as well. Let's see how to publish the messages to these topics. So if you scroll down here, step 4, write some events into those topics. Cool, right? So we'll follow this now. So here to produce or publish the messages, we are going to use the producer here. Okay, so we'll go to the bin directory and Kafka console producer sh file we are going to use, that is going to produce the events for us. Okay, so that is the console file we are going to use. And what we need to do, we need to select the topic. Which topic? Quick start events. That is what we created. Okay, and then where? Within the Bootstrap server localhost 9092. Okay, this is what we need to add. So once you hit this, it will create a sub console. With that you will be able to create the messages. Okay, so let me just create the producer here. So let me just clear this. Okay, and this is the command. I'm going to bin Kafka console producer. The topic is quick start events, and I'm selecting the Bootstrap server, that is our localhost 9092. Okay, you can see that we got the caret here. So now I can create the message. So I can create the message is subscribe to daily code buffer. Okay, so this is my first message. So now it is asking me for the second message. So I'll just add enable notifications. Okay, click on bell icon. So these are the different messages I'm publishing. Okay, now this all the messages are created. Now this is the producer. We need to have one consumer as well, one receiver as well, which will receive all these messages. Okay, so for that, let's go ahead and create the receiver as well. So for that, I'll just create a new terminal. Okay, and here you can see that how to read the events. Okay, similar to what we saw in the here while producing, that was the producer. Here it will be consumer. Okay, so bin Kafka console consumer, from where we need to read from the topic, quick events, quick start events, and from which server, that is a bootstrap server. Okay, from here I want to read. Now this is what from beginning. Okay, now this is what I talked to you about the offsets. So from where you need to read the messages, from which offset. Do you want to read from the start of the offset, from where the topic was created and from where the data was started to publish, or from the new messages you want to start receiving the messages? So that's the thing that we need to decide while reading the data or while connecting or creating the consumer and subscribing to the topic. Okay, as of now I want to get all the data. Whatever the data is been used from starting itself, I want to get those data as well. Okay, so I will be using this. So let me just copy this. Okay, and let me just create a consumer here. Okay, bin Kafka console consumer, I want to get the data, but what I will do is, let me just remove one thing. Okay, I'll just show you what happens. Okay, so I will just remove from beginning here. Okay, and I will hit enter. So now you can see that it is connected. Okay, now you can see that the consumer client ID is console consumer, group ID is this. So for every consumer there must be a group ID. Okay, so the group ID is there, and now it is started to listening. If I add any more data, suppose like this video. Okay, this is the new message. So this new message will be, okay, there was some mistake. So what I'll do is, I'll go to cd downloads Kafka, and here I will run this command. Okay, now it is connected. So there was some issue. So let me just give one more message. Hi, it should be able to receive. Okay, there is a mistake. Events. Okay, G is extra. Hello, and it should receive hello. Okay, so now it's good. Now you can see that it received only from hello. Okay, let me create a new terminal. What I'll do is, I'll just copy this command. Okay, and now it has from the beginning. Okay, you can see this tag from beginning. So let me just go to cd downloads Kafka directory and run this command. So now it has from bootstrap server from beginning. So now it should get all the messages from the starting. So you can see that it got all the messages. This is my first event. Subscribe to Daily Code Buffer, enable notifications, click on bell icon, like this video, hi, hello, everything. Okay, so here you can see that it was able to get all the data, but here only hello we got. Okay, so this way you can see that we got the data from the two offsets, two different offsets. One was from the start of the topic and one was from that particular point when the consumer was connected. Okay, this is the same way we can do in our applications as well. And here you can see that within the logs you will be able to see what is the leader, okay, and what are the different receivers connected to our application as well, to our Apache Kafka cluster as well. Okay, all those information you can see here. So this was about how you can install Apache Kafka and how you can work with Apache Kafka within the terminal. Now let's create a Spring Boot application to understand all these things and create our application. So what we are going to build here today is, if we go to the same example, okay, so what we are going to do is, we can have one cab booking application. Okay, so let me create a cab booking application where one app would be for user and one app would be for my driver. Okay, and we have a Kafka cluster in between. Okay, we have a Kafka cluster in between where driver will push the data to Kafka cluster for its location. Okay, what is the latest location of the driver, and user will listen to this Kafka cluster to get the latest location, of the driver. Okay, so this is a simple application that we are going to build using the Spring Boot. Okay, and we already have the Apache Kafka cluster installed and it is completely working, so we are going to use the same thing. Okay, so for that what we will do is we'll create two applications. Okay, now to create the applications, what we will do is we'll go to Spring Initializer. So let's go to the browser, let's go to start.spring.io. Okay, this is the best place where we can create our Spring Boot applications. So we'll create the Spring Boot applications with Maven. Language is Java. We are going to use 3.1.5 version, and the group information I'm going to do is com.dailycodebuffer. Okay, the artifact I'm going to give is capbook driver. Okay, this is for our driver application, and we are going to packaging with jar. Java version is 17. The dependencies I'm going to use is Spring Web dependency, and I want to use Apache Kafka, so I'm going to search for Apache Kafka. This is Spring for Apache Kafka. This will publish, subscribe, store and process streams of records. So this is what I want to use, so I'll just use this. Now with this dependency I'll just generate the project, and here you can see that capbook driver is created. Now I need the same thing for my user as well, so I'll just change my application name. Rest of the things I need the same thing, so I'll just generate the project with this as well. So here you can see that my two applications are created. So let me just open these two applications in IntelliJ IDEA. So here within the Kafka directory, I have my two applications, that is my capbook driver and capbook user. So I'll go to IntelliJ IDEA and open these applications. So let me just open, I'll go to YouTube tutorials, Kafka, and I'll open capbook driver. Okay, so here you can see that your capbook driver application is open. Okay, so if I'll go to Maven here, and I will add one more Maven project, that is going to be your capbook user. Okay, so here you can see that your capbook driver and capbook user, both the applications are there. Okay, and if you go to your pom.xml file, here you can see that we have two dependencies, that is Spring Boot Starter Web and Spring Kafka. Okay, and those two are the test dependencies. Now for this capbook driver, what we need is, from this application we need to publish the messages to our Apache Kafka, and from this capbook user we want to listen those messages. Simple. So we will go here in our main Java. Okay, and here we are going to create our application. So what we are going to do is we need one API that will hit and it will create the data for us. Okay, so let me just create the packages. So I'll just create a controller package. I'll create a service package and a config package to have my Kafka configurations. So these are the three packages I have created. Now let's work on these packages. So within this controller package, let me just create a new Java class. Let me say cab location controller. Okay, so this controller will handle the cab location for us. Okay, so this is the controller we have created. Let's create the similar service for that as well. So cab location service. Okay, two things we have created. We have one service and one we have controller. Okay, now to make this a controller, what we'll do is we will create this as a REST controller, and we will do request mapping, and we will make sure this is /location, and we need to have the object of a service here, right? We need to have a business logic, so we will just mention cab location service, and this is going to be auto wired. So we are going to use the object of location service here. Now we need to have one method here. Okay, one API method that will, by hitting that particular API, it will publish the location of the driver. Okay, so I'm going to define public response entity update location. Okay, now once that is done, I need to return new response entity. This is my message map of location updated. Okay, this is just a message I'm passing back, and then http status code dot OK. instead of that I can just write http status dot OK. So here you can see that I am just returning my response entity object, and within that I have a JSON data. I'll be JSON data, that is the key would be message and the value would be location updated successfully. Okay, and it will be http status OK response, that will be 200. Okay, that's the thing. Now between here my business logic will go. Okay, now from here I need to call my cab location service. Okay, now this is your controller. Now we need to add the configurations of our Kafka as well. So what we will do is, within the config package, let's create the Kafka config first. We need to know where we are publishing our messages, right? So what we'll do, within the config folder, we'll create a new Java class and we'll say Kafka config, and we will mark this as a configuration. Cool, right? Now within the Kafka config, we need to create a topic. Okay, so what we will do is we will create a method and we will create a topic of the bean. Okay, we'll create a topic that will be a bean which we can use. So we'll just define a method public and we'll define new topic. You can see that this new topic is from the Apache Kafka clients. Okay, and we'll just define topic and this is the method. Okay, then this has to return topic builder. Okay, using the topic builder pattern, builder design pattern, for the topic we are going to create the topic. Okay, with topic builder dot name of the topic. The name of the topic we can give cab location. Okay, dot, you can see that there are different parameters that we can pass. What is the configuration for that topic? Okay, if there are multiple configurations, we can pass all those configurations within the configs. This is similar thing that we saw when we are creating the configurations and topics, starting the server using our command line, right? If there are replicas, like which replicas to assign, if there are partitions, okay, how many replicas we need. Okay, all these things we can define here, but for now we'll just build it with the default values. Okay, so this is what we are going to do, and I'm going to define this as a bean. Okay, what I will do is I will convert this to a constant value. Okay, one more thing I'll do is I'll just copy this and I'll create a constant out of it. So let me just create a Java class and I'll define constant dot app constant, constnt. Okay, and within this I'll just define this. Okay, now if I go back, I can use this app constant dot cab location. Okay, this is much cleaner now. So you can see that my configurations are done. Now whenever I want to define which topic I want to use, I can use this topic. Now what I'll do is, from my controller, okay, this is my controller. Okay, update location. Now this is my method. Ideally, whenever there is an update operation for a specific thing, we generally do use put, right? So let me just do put mapping here. Okay, and let me do a simple logic here, that what I'm trying to do is, once I get the request, okay, what I'll do is I'll update any random values as a location. Okay, that's what I want to do. I'll just update a random value. So let me just define integer range equals to 100. Okay, and while range is greater than 0 and range minus minus. Okay, so till this, what I'm going to do is math.random plus math.random. So this is considered, this is my simple logic here. What I'm trying to do is, once I get the request, okay, and till this range is exhausted, I am publishing or I'm printing a random values. Consider this as a location, your lat long. Okay, we will do the actual logic, but this is what I'm trying to do. Okay, that for a particular range, I'll just generate a random locations. Now whenever we are connecting to our Kafka using Spring, we need to tell our Spring Boot application as well, like where you need to connect to, right? So for that, we can do our configuration in our application.properties file. So we need to define spring.kafka dot producer, because this is a producer application, right? Kafka dot producer dot which server we want to connect to, Kafka server, right? So in earlier also when we were working with CLI application, we defined bootstrap servers, right? So we'll define here bootstrap servers equals to localhost colon 9092. Okay, this is your bootstrap server. Now what we need to define is, like, whenever the application works, right, whenever the data has been transferred over the network, those objects get serialized, right? So whenever we are passing the data, those data is going to be serialized. Now what type of serializer we want to use, because we are going to store our data in a string format, right? So that's why we will define that my Kafka within my Spring Boot application, whenever the data is going to pass, it should serialize in string. So that's what I'm going to define. Spring.Kafka dot producer dot key serializer, okay, equals to, we need to give the object, that is org dot Apache Kafka dot common dot serialization dot string serializer. Okay, this is the class string serializer that we are going to use. Similarly for key we have to do for our value as well. So I'll just copy this entire thing. This is going to be my value serializer equals to the same thing. One more thing I'll define is, my application should run on server.port equals to 8082. And if I start my application, cab book driver application, you can see that there is an error. Okay, consider define a bean of service. Okay, that's cool. So we have to go to the service. We have auto-wired it, but it is not in Spring's context. So we will define using service annotation. Okay, now if you run it, it should run. So you can see that my application is started now. Okay, cool. So what I'll do is I'll go to Postman. Let me just start the Postman and let me just hit the API that we created. So this is the API that we created. That's a put request localhost 8082/location. If we go here, right, if you go to controller, okay, this is REST controller, request is location, and this is a put request. Okay, so once I hit it, it is going to generate the location for us within this range. Okay, so if I hit send, okay, you can see that it generated for 100 times. Okay, and it completed the request. So what I'll do is I'll do one thing. Now that whatever we printed now, right, that now we are going to publish to Kafka. Okay, so this is just for the example to show you that what's going to happen. Now we are going to publish it. So to publish this messages to Kafka, okay, we are going to go to our cab location service, and here we are going to write the code for it. So let me just stop the server and write the code here. Now here, to publish the code, we have to use the Kafka template. Kafka template will help us to create the template for storing my data to my Apache Kafka cluster. Like what type of map combination that we have to use, what key value combination that we have to use, and in which topic we need to send the data. Those all configurations I need to do here. So let me just do that. So I will just define that I need to use Kafka template. Okay, this Kafka template would be like, my key would be string and my value would be object. Okay, and I'll just define this is a Kafka template and I'll auto wire it. Okay, now I'll create one method, public boolean update location, and this update location is going to take string location, and this is going to return true, and in between we need to write our logic. Okay, now my logic would be use this Kafka template and send the data. Okay, now here you can see that to send the data we need to define first topic, okay, and the data. Okay, so this is the constructor, that this is the method we are going to use. Okay, the topic is app constant dot cab location. Okay, and the data is location. See how simple the method is, right? We just use the Kafka template to send my data to a topic that I have created. Okay, I have not created this topic, but Spring Boot will do auto configuration and it will create the topic for us. Okay, if the topic is not available. So now what I'll do is I'll go to my controller, and rather than printing this, okay, I'll call the method that is cab location service dot update location, and I'm going to pass the data. Okay, now this data, what I'm trying to do is this data is going to update at every time interval. So suppose I'm updating this data at every 1 second, so I'll just do thread.sleep 1000. Okay, and let me just add the exception to signature. Okay, so here you can see that at every second I'm going to publish my data. Okay, considering whenever my driver is there, driver is coming, the driver is updating its location every 1 second. So now what I want to do is let's start this application and see what's happening. Okay, so my application started, and what I will do is I will, considering my topic is created, now to check my topic is created, what I'll do is I'll go to terminal. Okay, I'll create a new terminal. I'll go to cd downloads Kafka. Okay, and I will check that my topic is created or not. Okay, so we had the command available, right? So this is the command. So I'll go to bin Kafka topics, describe topic, this complete command I'll just use here, and my topic name was cab location. Okay, and here you can see that the topic is created. The name of the topic is cab location. The topic ID is this, the partition count is 1, replication count and everything is 1. Now what I'll do is I'll listen to this topic. Okay, so I'll just create a consumer for this topic. So whatever the data is getting published, we can see here. So read the events. Okay, so this is the one. So I'll just copy this command, paste here. The only thing I need to change is the name of the topic. The name of the topic is cab location. Okay, and I'm going to listen. So here you can see that this is listening. Now what I will do is if I go to my IntelliJ IDEA, my application is already started. Okay, I'll go to Postman and hit send. Here you can see that it is publishing the data, and if I come here you can see that now I am receiving the data in my consumer. So my publisher is working, my consumer is just I've directly connected from my CLI application. So my publisher is working. Now I need to create this similar consumer as well, that is my user application, which will read the data for this. Okay, cool, right? So now let's go ahead, let's go to IntelliJ IDEA and let's build our user application as well. Okay, so within my cab user application, what I'll do is I will go to my cab book driver, I'll go to application.properties, and this all properties I need there as well. Server is what is the serialization and everything I need. So I'll just copy all this information. I'll go to cab book user, I will go to my resources, go to application.properties, and I'll paste all these properties. One thing I'll change is my application should work on 8081. These are consumers. Okay, so I'll just change to consumer, consumer and consumer. Okay, one more thing I need to define here is my group ID, because if you go here to the terminal, right, we have seen that the group IDs are used, right? You can see that which group is been used, right, for consumer. Okay, so here this group is defined. So we have to define one group as well, because the group is something that will define what type of consumer you can fetch the data. Okay, if I show you, so this is a sender and this is consumer 1, consumer 2, consumer 3, consumer 4. Okay, these are all different consumers, and this is your Kafka topic. Maybe your topic name is suppose cab location. Okay, and your sender is sending the data. Now these are all different consumers. Now how these different consumers can group is based on group ID. Suppose your consumer C1 is registered to cab location using group ID G1, but rest of the three are defined using G2. Okay, and your sender has published 3 messages. So what will happen is, as consumers are defined based on groups, this consumer will receive all the 3 messages. Okay, but these 3 consumers, as they are all defined using G2, okay, the combination of all these 3 consumers will receive 3 messages, because all the messages should be only be processed once. Okay, so first message can go here, second message can go here, and third message can go here. Okay, it will be completely based on the Kafka cluster and Zookeeper, how they are defining. So this is the concept behind the groups within the consumers. Okay, so that's why we need to define the group ID for our consumers. So that's why what we will do is, in our application here, we need to define the group. So that's why I will define the group here this way, that this is Spring Kafka consumer. Group ID is what? User group. Okay, so my group is also defined. Now what I'll do here, I'll define a service. Okay, so let me just create a package service, and within this service I'll define location service as a service. Okay, and this is going to be defined as a service. Cool. Now this location service, this cab booking service, is supposed to listen the messages. Okay, so here we have to create the Kafka listener. Public void cab location, this is the method that I'm building, and this is going to take the string location as the input. Okay, now this string location, where it will come from? Okay, this is injecting, we are injecting this, but where it will come from? This will come from @Kafka listener. Okay, now here we need to define topics. Okay, what is the topic? So the topic would be cab location. Okay, and we also need to define what is the group ID. So group ID is user group. If you go here, right, the properties, whatever we have defined, that is what we are defining here. Okay, and let's just print this location. So here you can see that simply what I've done is I've just created a Kafka listener, and where I'm listening the data from, I'm listening data from the topic cab location that I have already created from the driver cab service, right? This is what we have created, and from your user group, I'm defining the group as what we discussed from here, like how the groups and everything are defined. Now whatever the data we are going to take, we are going to listen from this listener, it's getting injected here and that is getting printed. However we want to use the data, that we can use, but this is just the example, so we created this way. So what we will do is we will start our application. So we'll go to cab user application and we will start our application here. Now you can see that user group partitions assigned. Okay, so here you can see that you're getting the loggers here, that there is no committed offsets or any information. So resetting the offset for partition cab location 0 to position this, that is the offset 100, because we already published 100 messages, right, already. So now that offset has reached to 100. So now what we are going to do is, what we are going to get is, from the 101st offset we are going to receive the data. We are not going to receive the first 100 records, okay, here. But if we want to do that, we have a setting available. Okay, so I'll just show you that as well, what to do, because earlier we saw that how we can do that using the from beginning, right, that particular tag we used. Similarly here also we can do it, but here let's understand that it will start from the offset 101 because 100 offset is already used. So now let me just, okay, so now it should get printed here. So I'll go to Postman and I will hit a URL. Okay, so now you can see that it started receiving the data in my consumer as well. If I go to my terminal, here also you can see that it started receiving the data, right? So here also data is getting received. here also data is getting received. So my two consumers are connected to my producer, and one producer is there which is producing the data. So my entire application is completely working fine. Now, as I said earlier, if we want to receive data from the starting initial index, that also we can define. So here, using this particular offset, that is Spring Kafka consumer auto offset reset, that is earliest. So with this value, we will define that this is going to be the initial beginning position of the offset, that is offset 0. From there we are going to get the data. We are not going to get the data from the new values. Okay, so this way we can do the configuration for this as well. So here you can see that we created our cab booking application where driver is publishing the location information and user is receiving the location information, and our Kafka is in between. So we are able to create our entire publisher subscriber application using Kafka, and we got to understand each and everything about Kafka as well. So you can also create the simple Kafka applications, and you can use Kafka within your projects. It's really easy to implement, and the Kafka's architecture for a developer to use is also really easy. It's really easy for any developer to get started working on Kafka, and most of the organizations would be using Kafka in one or the other way. So it is really important to learn Kafka if you're working in an organization, or if you are planning to work in an organization, and if you're preparing for the interviews as well, because Kafka will help you a lot in your interviews as well. So this was all about Apache Kafka, why we use Apache Kafka, what are the applications of Apache Kafka, advantages, disadvantages, and the architecture of Apache Kafka. We also saw how we install Apache Kafka, what are the different commands to use Apache Kafka, and we also created a complete dedicated application using Apache Kafka with Spring Boot. So this was all the things about Apache Kafka. If you have any things regarding any of the topics that we have covered, then do let me know in the comment section below. I will also share the link in the description below for you to check out this code. If you like this video, give us a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for the upcoming videos. Also click on the bell icon to get notified of all new videos. You can also click on the join button to join my channel and support me. I will see you in the next video. Till then, happy coding. Bye bye.